In this video, I'm going to talk about why awareness alone doesn't create change and why acceptance is such an important part of actually moving forward. I'm Dr. Natasha, a psychologist and professor. I help people overcome perfectionism, people pleasing, and burnout by teaching evidence based tools that bridge your head and your heart so you can live with more clarity and confidence. So, let me start today's topic with a personal story. When I was in graduate school back in the early 2000s, I got my first smartphone, a Blackberry. And I was so enamored with the idea of being productive all the time that one day while walking down a busy street near UCLA, I was staring at my phone instead of the sidewalk. I fell straight into a hole where a tree had once been and badly sprained my ankle. In the moment, I mostly just felt embarrassed. I looked around, didn't see anybody that I knew who was laughing, looked down at my ankle, didn't see any swelling, and I convinced myself it wasn't that serious. So I made the walk all the way back to my office. Next day, when the swelling was undeniable, I finally went to the doctor. Turns out it was a pretty bad sprain, and part of the bone had actually chipped off. I was on crutches, had the boot for a few weeks. But here's the point. Awareness was noticing the pain. Acceptance would have been admitting that it was real and changing my behavior accordingly. Because I delayed acceptance of what had just happened, the injury, I made it worse and I prolonged my recovery. The same thing happens with psychological and emotional pain. Awareness without acceptance often looks like knowing something but not feeling it, telling yourself you know better, but repeating the same behavior, or seeing a mismatch between your insight and your actions. A simple example is rush hour traffic. You're aware you're going to be stuck for 45 minutes going 1 mile, but you spend the whole drive swearing, lane changing, resisting reality. That is non acceptance. The traffic doesn't change. You knew that it was there, but your suffering increases when you're fighting it. So, acceptance would mean acknowledging the traffic and your frustration without trying to control what's actually uncontrollable. Now, acceptance is difficult because it often means coming face to face with feelings that we'd rather avoid: helplessness, discouragement, even joy. Sometimes joy scares us because we're afraid that it's not going to last. So, if you're wondering whether there's a part of reality that you haven't fully accepted, here are 3 reflection questions. First, where is there a gap between what I know and what I'm actually doing or feeling? Now, gaps between knowing and feeling can happen for a lot of reasons, but sometimes it's because there's an area that you haven't fully accepted. I'll share an example. I am not a morning person. I am also not a night owl, and I know this about myself. But when I choose to schedule a meeting for 8 a.m. and I wake up and I'm frustrated that I have a meeting at 8 a.m., I have clearly not fully accepted the fact that my brain doesn't even turn on until 9 a.m. at the earliest. There's a gap between what I know about myself and what I'm actually doing. Now, sometimes, of course, I can't avoid all 8 a.m. meetings, but in those cases, I just accept that it's going to feel rough. I'm not going to feel like getting up. And I might plan to end my day early or take a longer break than usual in the middle of the day to balance it out. The second reflection question is, am I avoiding an emotion that would come with acceptance? So it's completely normal to avoid uncomfortable emotions. And in some cases, it's actually might be helpful. The point here is not that you have to feel all your feelings at the full intensity all the time. The point here is, again, when there's a discrepancy between what you know and what you feel, or what you know and what you're doing, it can be helpful to approach your emotions with curiosity so you can see them with a little bit of distance. The third and final question to guide your reflection about whether you might be in a state of acceptance or non-acceptance is, am I trying to control something that is actually completely outside of my control? Leaning into these questions helps us recognize where awareness hasn't yet shifted into acceptance. Now, trust me, I get it. I love control. Acceptance is something that I have personally struggled with. But wrapping my head around how acceptance paves the way for change has transformed how I show up, not just as a therapist, but as a parent and a human being. Now, next week, I'll share strategies for what to do once you've accepted reality, but you're still left with those uncomfortable or scary feelings. If you found this video to be helpful, I'd love for you to leave a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel for more. You can also head to www.drnatasha.com to sign up for my weekly newsletter, Notes from Dr. Natasha, where I share evidence-based tools to help you keep your head strong and your heart rich.